Guillermo del Toro recently made his masterful stop-motion debut with Pinocchio, but it turns out this actually wasn't the director's first foray into animated filmmaking. More than 30 years ago, he originally planned to make his directorial debut with a deranged stop-motion feature titled Omnivore. Here's the story. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, long before he was an Oscar-winning filmmaker, Del Toro was a professional special effects and makeup artist. He'd trained under Dick Smith, the celebrated makeup designer behind many of the groundbreaking practical effects for the original Exorcist. Del Toro actually established one of the first animation and special effects facilities in Mexico, Necropia. The company's success allowed him to begin work on Omnivore, a feature-length stop-motion project. In a succinct summary given to IndieWire, Del Toro said the film was about a lizard man struggling for survival in a savage and unforgiving environment. The story followed his search for the source of a bright light in the distant mountains. After falling in love and getting betrayed, he finally discovers that the source of the light is a bonfire, where a race of monsters roast the flesh they use to feed an enormous blob that lives inside the mountains. The film was written entirely in the Uto-Aztecan language Nahuatl, and inspired by the work of Marcel Delgado, the Mexican-born sculptor who helped create the revolutionary effect sequences for King Kong. Del Toro and company spent about 3 years building sets and sculpting around 120 clay puppets. Just a few days into production, the team went out for dinner and a movie, and by the time they got back, they discovered their studio had been ransacked by burglars. Every puppet was destroyed, and just to add insult to injury, the burglars had urinated and defecated on the floor. It was a heartbreaking setback, but Del Toro didn't let it crush his spirit. He switched his focus to live action and ultimately made his feature debut with Kronos, an arcane and tragic fantasy that ingeniously reinvented vampire mythology. 3 decades later, he was able to make his long-delayed entry into feature-length animation with his eccentric and heartbreaking retelling of Pinocchio, which looks as if it will be only the first of many stop-motion films for the director. He's even started playing with the idea of turning his eagerly awaited adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness into a stop-motion feature. You can learn more about the lengthy history of this project in my video series linked here.